which is aptly titled Going Green or Going Green. So you are in the grand surroundings of House of Lords, and we are in the largest committee room in the House of Lords. I agreed to host this event for several reasons. The first reason is that I co-chair the all-party parliamentary group for Turkey. Secondly, I'm a friend of Turkey and the Turkish people. I have been to Turkey 6 times, and I visited various parts of Turkey. I understand you all remember Dalay is from Cornhill. I've been to Cornhill. People there are religious. And I went to the mosque where Rumi is married. Obviously, I think what Rumi has said has relevance to all the people of the world. There's another reason why I decided to host this event, and that is I'm very much involved in the issue of environment. In fact, my maiden speech is my first speech in House of Lords was on environment, and I've spoken on issues of environment in the House of Lords on debates and on legislation which we have now enacted. There's another reason why I decided to host this event, and that is I co-chair the all-party parliamentary group on Islamic finance, and I believe that Islamic finance can be utilized in funding of environmental projects. Now, we are seeing the horrors of war in Ukraine at a time when we're emerging from a global pandemic. In the United Kingdom, we have announced that we will phase out imports of Russian oil and gas, not only to destabilize Putin's war machines, but also help us to change to a new green energy world and a net zero future. The UK government recently released the British Energy Security Strategy, which sets out how Britain will accelerate the deployment of wind, new nuclear, solar, and hydrogen while supporting the production of oil and gas in the near future. By 2030, the UK government aims for 95% of electricity to be produced by low carbon means, and we hope that by 2025 the government will have fully decarbonized electricity system. This will be achieved through prioritizing areas such as wind, solar, and as I said earlier, development of nuclear energy. As co-chair and a friend of Turkey, I was extremely pleased to see the plethora of climate policies announced by the Turkish government in recent months, ranging from 2053 carbon neutrality target to the development of the National Green Finance Strategy by the end of 2033. However, the war in Ukraine has highlighted the need for Turkey to reduce its dependence on Russian gas imports and accelerate a long-term energy transition to renewable energy. Perhaps the United Kingdom and Turkey, we can work together to implement environmental changes and build on collaboration which we have seen recently. For example, in March, we saw the UK and Turkish governments agreed a clean transport deal worth £1.7 billion to finance a new high-speed electric railway line in Turkey to decarbonize travel, with major contracts awarded both to Turkish and British businesses. Additionally, last month, the UK delivered on pledges which we made in September 2021, announcing over £217 million worth of government backing for the largest solar facility in Turkey. G20 economies like the UK and Turkey must act to enhance incentives for overseas producers to shift towards green solutions, and the global energy crisis has stressed that it is time for us now to do so. Therefore, I believe it is clear that leading nations like UK and Turkey must work together to accelerate the transition to renewable energy and boost our energy independence over the coming years. There is therefore an urgent need to shift away from dependence on Russian oil and gas and protect our nations, our people, and our economy. Now, Turkey has made headway in reducing its carbon intensity. However, there is improvement to be done. There is room for improvements, and Turkey must reduce its reliance on coal. I'm pleased that in October 2021, Turkey ratified the Paris Agreement. It's one of the last G20 countries to do so. So I'm pleased that this has been achieved. The World Bank has said that an export-oriented economy, Turkey is well positioned to support green growth. One of our Oxford universities suggested that Turkey will be key in exporting energy such as green hydrogen to Europe. We need more hydrogen. So I think if Turkey can produce us with this hydrogen, it will be a great thing. The World Bank has also said that green finance will be essential for Turkey to realize its green growth. Now, I said earlier on that I'm connected with Islamic finance. In fact, I co-chair the all-party parliamentary group on Islamic finance. We have membership of over 100 stakeholders, and I believe that Islamic finance can be utilized to promote, to finance some of these environmental projects. Now, I would also like to mention that I am very much interested in blue economy. I'm connected with a company which is very much involved in blue economy projects. The blue economy is, of course, protection of water, protection of oceans, which protect the water, and obviously this is what we are trying to do. We have a connected with a company which is doing environmental projects for blue economy in certain parts of the world, and that if Turkey needed our help, we can certainly help Turkey with undertaking blue economy projects. Now, I would like to hand you over to Ines, which I would like to thank him. I met him several times. We had a group of Turkish students only a week ago. And they were interested in coming here. We hosted them. We gave them some tea. And obviously, Ines was there, very bright students. And therefore, I'll like to hand you to Ines, who can, or whoever it is, to introduce the panel of panel who are going to speak today. And I'm so glad that we have with us a member of parliament. I've visited your parliament in Ankara. I've been there. Tell me a place I've not been to. And I'll tell you something else. I was saying earlier on, the first time I visited Istanbul, you know what I wanted to see? I wanted to see how Sultan Mehmed went behind the Christians to take over Constantinople. He was only about 21, 22. A man of vision. And the other Sultan, I'm very much interested in Sultan Suleiman, the Magnificent. And I was hanging these plates when you saw them. And some of them go back to Sultan Suleiman's time. And the Turks, the generosity, the friendship, the love they show me every time I go to about this country. Thank you very much for coming.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Thank you for the opening remarks. Please welcome Ziya Altunyaldiz for the keynote speech.
Lord Mohamed, and dear guests, dear friends, I'm so delighted to be here. I've been in London as commercial counselor to Turkish embassy some years ago. It's always a pleasure for me to come and remember the time that we have been in London, and it's always a pleasure for me. And I thank you, Lord Mohamed, for having said about Turkey and the people of Turkey and friendship and sincerity, and I'm grateful. And thank you so much for hosting us at this historical place, House of Lords. And I thank Mr. Enes for organizing on behalf of Circle Foundation this organization, and I'm sure it's going to be great discussion and a fruitful result. I just would like to emphasize some of the points that recently have been raised all around the world, and what we have done as Turkey on these issues, and what is our plan, and what should be the world plan for reconciling and coordinating, and also putting some workable solution to the world on energy and other short of resources as well. As I said, we have been still witnessing extraordinary and challenging times all around the world. And first, the great impacts of global warming, as Lord Mohamed explicitly said about it, and climate change, and COVID-19 pandemic, and now political conjuncture. Undoubtedly, the energy sector is one of the most affected sectors from these challenges. Not only the largest global economic slowdown due to the coronavirus pandemic, but also the sustainable transformation necessity are radically changing the rules of energy sector all over the world. And moreover, we are still going through a period in which post-pandemic economic effects are felt severely, such as the inflationary environment spreads and the commodity crisis is experienced. And the burden of rising energy prices is undoubtedly felt by both governments, industry, households, and others related to these facts. There are several concerns of the world in the energy sector, such as supply insecurity, price imbalances, transition obstacles, and geopolitical tensions. Dear colleagues, we are to manage green transition process most efficiently with a specific emphasis on utilization of domestic and renewable sources. Since dependency on energy is creating and experiencing many problems, such as we experiencing nowadays. Since we are in Going Green or Going Green panel, let me just emphasize how we are going green as Turkey. Turkey has achieved a remarkable growth in renewables in the past decade, led by government support, financial incentives, and favorable climate change. And also, I must tell that the cooperation that we have been putting into practice in terms of collaboration and putting things aside and also putting that positive agenda for the region and for the world and for the people around. The new capacity that Turkey has added, its installed electricity capacity, is almost entirely renewable one, and we have exceeded some points that in wind and solar, and also we have obtained more than 50% of our energy from renewables. And also, I think we have still potential to utilize, and we are trying to speed up, and we are trying to achieve as fast as we can, since, as Lord Mohamed said about, and we have been having a target of net zero emission by 2053. And the use of renewable resources will both support our climate goals, as I said, and reduce our country's dependence on energy and supply from different sources. In this sense, I would like to underline that we have an energy market that is transparent and quite open to foreign investment, and there are lots of investment we have taken to Turkey and running successfully in both installation power and also in both production facility, like component we use it in our power plant. And I think today's world, not only producing energy, but also if you would like to reduce your dependency, and you need to cover not only producing energy side, but also production side as well, like I said, component side. And the difficulties in energy experienced today reminded the importance of localization and self-sufficiency, as I said earlier. And how about the backup systems, like from gas side and from other sources? And since we are aware that the increasing share of renewables, there is a need to backup. And the best backup system can be developed by natural gas and nuclear-based power plants in line with decarbonization efforts. In that regard, being the fourth largest gas market in Europe, Turkey has been investing heavily on different infrastructure and international gas pipeline projects. As I'm sure you may know, most of you know, such as TANAP and TAP is one of the best examples and for sustainable supply for Turkey, not only for Turkey but the countries around Turkey. And I think we are experiencing how important it is to diversify your sources of energy. And also I think you need to back up by doing other things as well. And to address supply security concerns in the gas sector, as I said, we increase our LNG regasification capacity as well, and also LNG terminals and the terminals put on the sea, mobile terminals as well. Today, I think one thing we cannot ignore is energy. Energy like an oxygen for people. And if you are in short of energy, and you cannot produce, and you cannot develop, and you cannot provide the necessity of people you live in the country. That's why I think how we can make our transition. Let me just a little bit mention about this. The world, as you know, is trying to reduce carbon intake and to make our planet carbon net zero by around 2050. And after the ratification of the Paris Agreement, Turkey also announced net zero emission economy by 2053. And I sadly observe that global attitude is insufficient for both producing and generation solutions to the climate change and transition area. And I think we need to increase our efforts. Especially the countries, developed countries, I think should take the burden of reducing the carbon emission. Since they use the sources maybe harshly, maybe without consideration of the planet sources and also destructing the climate and destructing environment. Now there's a time, I think, for developing countries. It is not the share. It's not the fair solution to say as developed country, we developed and we destruct the climate and we destruct the environment. Let's come together and to rehabilitate and to make things, to put things again in. And I think there is a huge finance needed, and there is a huge collaboration and cooperation needed. And it's not fair for calling for the developing countries, let's get together and take the burden equally. I think developed countries are the one who should take the most of the burden, and developing countries are the one who should support it financially, technologically, and to make our world livable again. And I think Turkey and UK has an immense potential to collaborate, to cooperate, not only in energy, but also technology, and not only in Turkey and UK, but also in the third countries as well. That's why I think it is a timely organization to put things together in order and to get together, to come together and to organize and getting people together to facilitate and to galvanize and also to cooperate and make things, make the world livable again, and also have something workable for our esteemed countries, the UK and Turkey. And that's why I do thank for this organization, Mr. Lord Mohamed, and I thank Mr. Enes and Circle Foundation, and I thank you all for coming and having your time and to share the time with us again, and I thank you.
We would like to thank Ziya Bey for the keynote speech. Ladies and gentlemen and our distinguished guests, welcome to our panel discussion, Going Green or Going Grey, organized by the Circle Foundation. Circle Foundation is a non-profit, independent and a non-partisan think tank based here in London, dedicated to innovative studies on national, regional and international issues, with a particular focus on UK-Turkey relations. Now, following Russia's attacks on Ukraine, all other nations have shifted their focus on energy security and how to boost their energy resilience. Today, we think on how to diversify energy supplies and use non-Russian sources of energy. We will also be looking into renewable energy investment in Turkey and the UK and the potential for greater energy independence in these two countries. I'm Aslı Atbaş. I'm a journalist working for TRT World based here in London. And please allow me to introduce my guests for today's discussion. Lord Mohamed Sheikh, Baron Sheikh of Cornhill, member of the House of Lords. Ziya Altunyaldiz, Chairperson of Turkey's Industry, Trade, Energy, Natural Resources, Information and Technology Commission, and a member of the Turkish Parliament. Galip Dalay, Associate Fellow at the Middle East and North Africa Program at the Chatham House, and Karim Elgendy, Associate Fellow at the Chatham House. So we have lots to discuss, and we also would like to take your questions at the end of the panel discussion. So I would like to start right away. Lord Sheikh, I would like to start with you, please. We are currently experiencing a global cost of living crisis, with increasing energy prices all over the world. With this current crisis and pressure to deliver results in the immediate term, how do you think government has with the need to set out long-term energy transition plan? Thank you.
I think we have several problems. Some of them are due to pandemic, and more recently, because what's happening in Ukraine. The issues which are causing us concern. Number one is cost of living, and number two, the rising price of energy, not only gas, but as well as petrol. Now, what are we doing about it? We, as a ruling party, we're trying to deal with the situation as much as we can. Now, the inflation in the United Kingdom, and I'd like to hear from our honorable friend as to what inflation in Turkey is, but inflation is touching 9%, and it's likely to go up 10%. Cost of living is a big problem, and some people have got to decide whether they buy food or they buy gas to heat their houses. Now, there is no short-term answer to that because these issues are driven by external factors. Now, obviously, I think what we need to do as far as this discussion is concerned, we need obviously to cut our use of petrol. I mean, for example, myself, I've the other thing which we are very, very keen on, leadership is very keen on, is to make sure that we look after our refuse, we think we put away. So apart, if we haven't discussed today, apart from net zero emission by 2050, I think we should also train our people to be sensible and obviously be using common sense. Now it's difficult to deal with the issue of energy because one of the things which has been stated is that these petrol companies and these oil companies, these gas companies have made a lot of money and they are saying, well, you must chip into it. We United Kingdom, we are trying to subsidize the energy. We're trying to help people with regard to their cost of, with regard to their food. So, but is obviously the government obviously can't do everything. And I think it's a question of going through this crisis. Inflation, I mean, I'm a businessman, how do you deal with inflation? Now, one way of dealing with inflation is that you put the rate of interest. But if you put the rate of interest, you know what happens? It creates social problems. So there are no shortcut, easy measures, but obviously we, as a ruling party, we're doing all we can to help the people in the country. Obviously, I think as far as this discussion is concerned, obviously we must all try to get to net zero emission by 2050. Apart from net zero emission using green energy, I think and I said earlier on, we ought to be thinking about blue economy, about looking after. If you look at Turkey, you've got water all around you, you've got Black Sea, you've got the Algendy Sea, and we need to look after the ocean as well.
Thank you very much. Galip Hocam, welcome and thanks for joining us today. So this energy crisis has led to calls across nations to explore all possible domestic energy resources to increase their energy independence. Do you agree with this approach, and what do you think is the best way to achieve energy independence?
Well, thank you. I mean, I will be addressing this, but also maybe beyond this, since the panel is coming after the Russian and Ukrainian war, and it has created much question about the normal security, but energy security at the same time. And Turkey is a vital actor there. I completely agree with Ziya Bey's assessment that first and foremost, we need to have a global compact to deal the unequal burden of this energy transition. Because right now, the energy transition, the cost of energy transition is unbearable for many poor countries. So now we need to have, particularly the war in Ukraine, has only accentuated and increased this necessity. We are talking about the food security, which is that we should be doing, and it's absolutely a necessity. But we have to also talk about the energy security because the energy bill for many countries are becoming unbearable. And particularly when we discuss the cost, how much cost that this war is causing, we have to make distinctions because there has been much talks and much call in the West why the non-Western countries are not like sharing the same position as the Western country does. And one of the major reasons is the cost, because the cost of the war for, let's say, someone in Western Europe might be a bit increased in the inflation, but the cost for someone in Africa, in Middle East, in Asia, might be a choice between famine, might be a choice between, a further increase in poverty. So therefore, there is a need for a global compact to address this question of the energy security as well as the food security. Secondly, we have been talking much about the European security and European energy security. And these two are completely interlinked. European security and European energy security cannot be decoupled, and you cannot have one without having the other one. The energy dependency creates the geopolitical dependency, which in return creates the geopolitical fragility. Now the Germany clearly finds it and clearly experiences it because of the nature of the energy dependency on Russia. But I think the European approach has been extremely short-sighted when it comes to debate on the European security. Thus far, the universe within which the European security debate was taking place has completely changed. But the Europeans has not changed their approach. So the universe has changed, but the Europeans, in a sense, still keep very static approach to this debate. This war illustrated three things, two things most importantly. One of them is the non-EU member of NATO countries proved to be much more important when it comes to European security than the Europe itself. The EU as an entity simply mattered nothing in this recent crisis. It was the US, UK, and Turkey that played a major role in a crisis that was the gravest crisis since the Second World War. And now this debate has to take place with a reference that it has to include UK, Turkey, and US into the debate as well too. So therefore, the UK-Turkey cooperation should take place at the EU level, both the European security and European energy security at the same time. And related to this, we should not lose the sight of Eastern Mediterranean. I mean, now the Eastern Mediterranean has gotten quiet because of these drilling activities, gas activities, but the Eastern Mediterranean crisis by no means has been resolved. And unless and until Turkey feels that in one way or another, the emerging energy and security order in the Eastern Mediterranean is not premised on the idea to contain Turkey, this crisis will not be resolved. So in one way or another, Turkey, there needs to be a way to be found to include Turkey into Eastern Mediterranean gas forum. Because as long as Turkey remains outside of it, and as long as there is like gas cooperation, different Eastern Mediterranean countries, the Turkey's sense of exclusion will be there, and that will generate the source of tension in Turkey's relation with a set of countries, and that will further reduce the European quest for the energy security. It is good that now the Eastern Mediterranean gas pipeline project proves to be not only economically unfeasible, but politically unfeasible because the US is withdrawing its support for it. And then the energy transition, the gas transition, the green transition debate in Europe makes it very unfeasible to finance a project that was going to be 6.2 billion euro. So those are all welcome development. But the end game of creating a cooperative regional framework when it comes to gas by facilitating Turkey's inclusion into the Eastern Mediterranean Gas Forum is there. So therefore, the Britain, Europe, Turkey needs to engage in a much more dialogue to find a way to bring Turkey into this game, either by facilitating Turkey's accession or by creating a trilateral framework between Europe, Eastern Mediterranean Gas Forum, and Turkey to address the question there. Because otherwise, I think soon what we see, the de-escalation soon is going to lead to re-escalation. So the de-escalation should not deceive us. And the final point is, recently in Turkey's surrounding region, we have been talking about de-escalation. And de-escalation has created many opportunities for having different kind of conversation, including on energy and gas cooperation. Recently, there has been much talk between Turkey and Israel, and then President Erdogan called for more engagement on the gas cooperation, and there has been some signaling from the Israeli side. There has been talks between the Turkey and the Iraqi Kurdistan, the potential gas cooperation there, and obviously, like, you know, the Azerbaijan is in the picture. I think for the European energy security, those conversations need to be supported and sustained. And the sustainment of this conversation will sustain the de-escalation in the region, the geopolitical de-escalation. So this sort of conversation that is going to take place, whether they will, how feasible and how realizable these conversations are, another question. Perhaps many of them will take years to realize itself, but this set of conversation in itself are important. So I can leave it here.
Thank you very much. Now we are talking about zero emission targets and green targets were set in COP26 summit back in November. Like that was 6. But following the Russian attack on Ukraine, the world is now in a much different place when the summit was held. So Karim, you were there closely watching that COP26 summit. Do you think it is possible to achieve those targets that were set in COP26? Or will countries have to rethink what's achievable and the timelines of these targets?
Well, can you hear me? Well, the targets were set. There are arguments as to whether they were enough or not enough, but in all cases, the war has derailed that to a certain extent. the short-term requirements for managing the European demands, I would repeat that that's an exclusively European issue here. 155 BCMs of Russian gas that need to be replaced by something else for Europe. That doesn't change where the climate is, doesn't change the global warming situation that we have, and it doesn't also change the national plans that countries have put in place. So, for example, the UK plan, the Turkish plan to decarbonize by mid-century, that's not going to change as a result of that war. It might get derailed a little bit. There are conversations in the UK as to whether climate can be deprioritized for a little bit, as long as we make up for it. That debate is ongoing in the UK, but I don't think it will matter in the long term. Soon enough, that war will be resolved somehow, and we will have to deal with the climate change challenge. I want to emphasize one thing, if you allow me, on the UK and Turkey. Lord Sheikh and Mr. Ziya both refer to this specifically, that the UK and Turkey find themselves in quite a similar place in the energy transition. They're both around the same in terms of their electricity generation. They're about a third or so from renewable energy sources. They're both keen on expanding the renewable energy sources. So all of these are low carbon. And they both have reached a point where that is under control. Maybe the UK could teach Turkey a lesson or two about offshore wind generation, perhaps, because the UK is a global leader, and Turkey has not really moved on that front very much. On the whole, the sectors that have not been developed as much are the industrial sector and transportation. The UK has made good moves on that front. It wants to be a leader on manufacturing of batteries, for example, and electric vehicles. It wants to ban the sale of electric vehicles within the next 8 years, so we can't do that in this city anymore by 2030. And while Turkey is starting to manufacture its own electric vehicles, it's moving on with the high-speed trains as well. But remember, Turkey still uses 97% for all of its mobility from fossil fuels. So that's a sector that needs to be decarbonized, and it's a harder to decarbonize one. Also, the industry in the UK is still trying to grapple with that, and the UK wants to be a hydrogen leader. So it's trying to use hydrogen as a way, green hydrogen specifically, and blue hydrogen, to move away from fossil fuels. And Turkey could also learn from that lesson, because it finds itself a rapidly industrializing nation with an increasing footprint that mostly comes from its industry. 2/3 of that comes from fossil fuels. It needs to move in that front. So hydrogen here presents an opportunity for it as well. So both within the electricity, within the mobility sector, they can both collaborate on electrification of that, and they can both collaborate on hydrogen on the industrial front. They also find themselves as two nations with very old buildings, really poorly insulated buildings, can't keep heat very well. That have struggled for years. So collaboration on improving energy performance, both the need for reducing the energy demand in buildings in both countries is significant. And believe me, sounds boring, it's really important for energy security to reduce your heating. It was in a recent estimate, it was found that in order to get rid of Russian oil imports into the UK, gas imports into the UK, which is about 8% of all gas of the UK, if all homes were dialed down by 1 degree, we will get there. Eliminate those 8% that come from Russia. So it does play a role, and Turkey has the same situation. Turkey has an advantage on that front because its houses are slightly newer than the really old houses in the UK, but also because Turkey has the kentsel dönüşüm, I hope I pronounced that properly, the urban regeneration plan to knock down buildings that are at risk from earthquakes and rebuild them again. So that's an opportunity here for building better, building more efficient as well. So I think these are, in my view, the main three sectors. Both countries and can collaborate on that front. Mobility moving into electric mobility, and also a little bit of hydrogen with freight and shipping, and housing improving their energy efficiency.
Thank you very much. So we have been talking about Turkey's energy policies and its unique position quite a lot now, but here I want to turn to Ziya Bey. Currently Turkey is importing 99% of its gas from Russia, Azerbaijan and Iran, and most of its oil from Iraq and Russia. But as we have been speaking, it has a very unique position on its energy policies as well as its position on war. So, what are the ways in which you think Turkey can reduce their energy independence, but also help, especially European countries, to shift their energy independence as well?
I think the world has known that the energy crisis is huge planetary. Now, all over the world, people are talking about how we can overcome, as a world, not only Turkey, not only the UK, not only other countries, how we can overcome these problems. I can put it this way: if there is a global problem and global issue, I think the solution should be global as well. No single country can produce some workable and for this solution to not only itself but also to other countries as well. And the people all over the world and the countries, the governments should understand, and there is a real problem, and how we should get together, and we should work together, and we should develop a common solution that might work for everyone in the world. And if there is people understand the dependence of the energy in one single source is real problem. And now everyone is trying to diversify the sources and diversify the energy they are using, and also diversify the materials they have been using. And that's why one thing that everyone should understand, there should be an international collaboration, and it must. And regarding Turkey, we have been trying hard to diversify that we are getting our energy, and by countries, and by sources, and also by the energy that we use, the sources that we have been using. And we have been trying to electrify the things that we have, as like Karim said, building a new factory and an electric car build, and we are trying to build our brand and electric car, and then also we are trying to transform from fossil to electric car by subsidizing the transition period. And also we have been putting lots of effort and finance to renewable energies. And the energy that we have been put in use for recent years, and almost most of them are renewable sources, not from the conventional sources. Also, we are a clear agenda to work on hydrogen, and as Karim rightly said, and also Galip rightly said, there are opportunities for countries like the UK and Turkey to come together, and how we can speed up the transformation process. And we should put things together earlier rather than later, and we should understand how big the problem we are facing as a whole, and we should understand how collaboration we need it to find and to develop a workable solution for everyone, and also how finance, especially, let me reiterate again, how create some sort of finance for developing countries to support the transition period. Otherwise, not every country can do their own finance, and it is, as I said, it is not right, it is not fair, and not workable. And there should be an international fund to allocate to the countries' needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we've heard from all our speakers, and now I would like to turn to our guests if you would like to ask some questions. Please.
Sure. My name is Altunyaldiz. I'm the representative for the
Sorry, excuse me a second. Can you please?
Sure.
The mic, please.
I should have had a louder voice. Thank you so much. Thank you. My name is Altunyaldiz. I'm the representative for the Turkish Cypriot Chamber of Commerce here in London. I have a question for Mr. Ziya. As we see the world transitioning away from the use of fossil fuels, we've seen now the issues raised between, as the topic suggests, Ukraine and Russia. We've got a lot of issues with energy security and food security. Now, my question is, as that transition happens, as it inevitably will do over a period of time, what role do you feel institutions like OPEC will play in that transition, in partnership with Turkey and perhaps the UK? Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think the question is, as I've been talking about, OPEC is a world oil organization that is trying to regulate demand and supply, and trying to regulate the price. And I think that if there is an issue, OPEC will come to play. It is conducive role that is needed at the moment. Since there has been a problem, not only by supply but also the price imbalances and the shortage of supply, and also the blockade that some countries are not able to get the necessity of the energy and oil and gas and other things to continue their daily life. And since there has been accumulating the fund by selling the sources, now it is time, I think, for OPEC to come and play their conducive role and put aside some sort of fund to gradually help transition period. And instead, now we are a source of companies, and a source of countries. They cannot say we can only sell, we can only collect the money that on our side. Now it is time to take on the burden and to share the burden of the world is now taking on, and put their role as a constructive and conducive way, and putting supply, increasing the supply, and instead of letting the price go up and up, and instead of and regulating the price, and then helping the countries all around the world, not helping, I mean just approaching responsibly to the world, and supplying the countries which is in need, and also not letting the price up, and also increasing the need of supply, and putting things in order, and also not make things unfortunately catastrophic. That's why let me just reiterate: OPEC will come to play and play conducively and in coordination with the demanding countries and regulating the price and supply. Thank you.
Any other questions? Please.
I have many questions. I don't need my echoing, I think enough, my voice. I have attended, yesterday one seminar which was organized by Dr. Mohamed Karim, Institute. One of the professors.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I think I can hear you, but I think people are back.
I have attended.
Start from the beginning. Can you introduce yourself, who you are?
So I'm Mohamed, I'm living here 46 years. So I have attended one seminar yesterday, which was organized by Dr. Mohamed Karim, Institute. So regarding energy, this our energy is sun energy. From sun directly, 24 hours every day, 365 days. No obstacle, no cloud, no weather, no rain, nothing. This is possible, he was telling me yesterday. I was saying, we have a lot of people like this. So that can be happen. We have to space shuttle, which can catch the sun energy, then send the Earth base, that can be distributed. He was also there, I think he told Britain already invested to study feasibility. I think US also doing the same thing. Have any idea that this is doing the same thing?
I think your question is to Ziya Bey.
Sorry, okay, please.
Would you like to add something?
No, I think you mentioned solar.
Not solar, this is sun energy.
Exactly, solar.
Yeah, that's solar. Yeah.
This is one of the methods of producing energy by renewable means. Wind, I think you mentioned wind.
Yeah.
We are perhaps the world's leader on production of energy by wind. Of course, there is also the issue of using using waterfalls to produce energy. But there are other methods, and I think hydro. You see, the point is got to be combination of everything, really. And this is what we are trying to do. United Kingdom, we don't have much sun, obviously, but you see houses, we've got solar panels at the top. So we are trying to do the best we can to produce energy by renewable means. But I think it's an important point we need to remember. In addition to production of energy by renewable means, we need to make sure we use energy in a sensible way. And I think you referred to a very, very good point about construction of housing. This is an ancient building. We have problems here, undoubtedly. But obviously, you live in a modern house, and obviously, this is very, very important. So I think there are three issues I'd like to point out. One is production, the third is use of energy, second is that, and thirdly, getting the culture right among the people. How do they dispose of their waste, for example? I mean, for example, I'm very much involved in blue economy. And one of the things we find is they chuck litter, they chuck plastic in water. And of course, that's very bad for the fish. And I think those are the things. In certain African countries, we're working in 5 countries at the moment, litter, use of litter is very important. Getting the psyche right, the psychology of people right. How do they dispose of their litter? So those
No, this is completely different. He's telling not solar like which we are getting like how the sunshine happen. It's directly from sun
Yeah.
So how
by
can
by space shuttle
Can I respond to this? So the primary issue with solar energy is always the fact that the sun sets, obviously, and there's no sun in the evening. But recently, the price of batteries, lithium batteries, has come down so much that it's now possible to use those batteries, store the energy that comes from the sun, and use it in the evening. To the extent that in the UK, there's a company called Xlinks, which is developing a large, very large array of solar and wind in Morocco, 200 square kilometers of land, about the size of Edinburgh. And going to put lots of solar, lots of wind on those. It's going to generate about 10.5 gigawatts of both solar and wind. The catch here is, using battery, this amount of electricity can be converted into steady, 24/7, 365, but much less, 3.6 gigawatts. So those 10.5 turn into 3.6 of constant, just like nuclear, steady, just like gas, quite steady electricity. So we don't really need to go to space shuttles in order to get that steady solar energy. We can get it on Earth using good use of batteries and some smart algorithms. So yeah, that concern has always been there, but I think in the last couple of years it has been fairly resolved. Thank you.
Kim, thank you for bringing that up. Galip, please.
Sure, let me just add something on it. Since we are very poor on conventional sources like gas and oil, and that's why we put our sources to transform our energy to renewables. And we have been working intensively on these matters, like establishing power plant, and like production, the instrument and everything, and also developing something new to increase the efficiency and the production capacity of this. And we are, as Karim said, and the battery technology is developing fast, and the cost of production is getting low. I think the rules of the play will change after storage is possible with the low cost. And up to that point, and like everyone, every other country, we are trying hard on to obtain every possible means and ways to transform. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would you like to add anything else? Okay, I would like to thank all the speakers very much and all our guests for joining us today. And I would like to hand the word over to Enes, the head of Circle Foundation.
Thank you very much. Welcome everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank your Sheikh for hosting us tonight on this important occasion.
I didn't know anything. Lady Sheikh, because of your
Lady Sheikh as well. First, sorry. And our keynote speakers, Ziya, Altunyaldiz, who came from Turkish Parliament, from Turkey. Thank you very much. Galip, Dalay from Chatham House, and Karim, Elgendy, also from Chatham House. Thank you very much. And I would like to thank you all for coming here. And I would like to make one announcement. Next month we are, today's topic was energy in the context of Russia-Ukraine war. Next month, on the 10th of June, we are organizing a very high-level roundtable discussion, which will involve both Deputy Minister, Foreign Deputy Minister of Turkey and Foreign Deputy Minister of UK, and also other experts from Rus United Service Institute and Chatham House and other journalists. And then on the follow-up, we will be organizing a panel in the UK Parliament. So you can find more about us, our foundation, on our website and also on our social media. And you can kindly follow our Twitter and Instagram account, so you can learn more about our activities. And thank you again, Lady Sheikh and George, for hosting us tonight. And I'd like to wish you a good evening. Thank you.
I think your ambassador is trying to get a group of us to go to Turkey. Because of the pandemic, this has not been possible. But he's invited us to dine with him, and I think you can follow that forward. If somebody says to me, come to Turkey, I said, well, fascinating country.
Thank you so
And
much.
therefore,
Now it's
looking-
time to renew our invitation for our delegation to come over to Turkey.
certainly, I have been to Ankara, Konya, I've been to Pamukkale, Cappadocia, Ephesus, Istanbul. I've traveled all around.
And Karim will come over as well.
Absolutely. But it's a country which has got so much history, so much culture. And I've always been interested in the history of Ottoman Empire. Really. And one of the great things about the Ottoman Empire, I mean, they conquered so many, they occupied so many countries. but they never forced anybody to become Muslims. That's the great thing. And if you look at when Sultan Mohamed, when he conquered Constantinople, he said to the Christians, you carry on continuing to be Christian. And in fact, the head of the Greek Orthodox Church is not in Greece, it's in Istanbul.
That's true.
Absolutely, because I know that, because I know the head of the Greek Orthodox Church. So one thing we must admire, you as an empire, how we used to hold an empire, you let people do what they can, undoubtedly. So when I go to Istanbul, and I think one of the good things which you did when you occupied Middle East, you brought some lovely things with Islamic history into Turkey. So undoubtedly, so the answer to your question is, say to me, come to Turkey, I'll see you back. Thank you.